here we are. So I thought today, before AI and the Tin Man is taking over my job, I should make a video. So this is my creation. I did this fountain. It took me a while, 2.5 months with everything, but it was a lot of work and a lot of designing and a lot of, oh my gosh, it was a lot. So here's the foundation. Luckily, we had a big foundation in from a wall, so we added, and with lots of concrete and rebar and epoxy, we got it done. So here's the back wall, and the back wall is anchored to the existing wall with rebar and epoxy like it should be, and lots of concrete. And you see right here the backside, and this backside is cavity. That's where the water tank goes for the fountain. Here we see a texture from a rock I put in with a hammer and chisel, and you see those chisels here. Those are really humongous, and it's all in a certain angle. And you see, actually, when the sun shines on the right direction, you see those shadows and everything. It's really great. Here are my chisels. I only used throughout the job maybe 10 or 12 chisels, and that's all I had to. That's all I needed. Here are the bottom plates, and on top is a top plate for the shaft, and the bottom plate is just chiseled with hammer, and next plate up is chiseled with hammer and chisel and a broad chisel, and to get these little ripples in. So the shaft itself, I put diamonds in the middle, every other one. So as you can see, here is one section with those little diamonds, and here is an empty one. So one section with the diamonds and the empty one, and so on. So that's actually a very nice design, I thought. And here is how I chisel those second bottom plates with a very broad chisel. It was actually a little bit too broad, but I don't have a 2-inch chisel for a 1 3/4 thickness of the stone, so that's what I did. And I don't want to say I ruined my chisel, but it took a lot of grinding to straighten this carbide chisel out, and yep, it worked. It worked. So you can tell when the dust flies off and it gets less and less dust, the chisel is getting dull and it needs to be resharpened. So I used a rubber mallet for this particular job, because a steel hammer would be way too heavy, way too aggressive, and I wouldn't get the effect out of it what I've been looking for. So rubber mallet is just the right tool to use. Here we see you see a piece. It needs to be worked on, and it's on a certain angle. And I used an axe with a carbide insert. And this carbide insert, well, it holds up for a long time, and it has a total different structure what you saw before. But hey, that's how you do it normally. When you do that and work with this tool, you use 2 hands. I'm using 1 hand because the other one, well, somebody has to hold the camera, right? So here we go, and it keeps going and going. It takes a little bit. For the whole piece there, probably takes an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. That's when you do it constantly and don't rest much. You see on the edges, they need to be chiseled too. I have another video. You can watch me doing the edging. Never ever go all the way out with this big piece to do the edges. You will lose it. Here is my back wall. The back wall is different. Every rock is different sizes, different structures, and different surfaces. So I laid it out on my shop floor and marked it so I know where they go. Here is the chisel I just mentioned. So you go and take the edges, always point the chisel to the inside of the stone, otherwise you could lose an edge. Then here it is, now you can see it a little bit better. Bad camera. Here we go. So you see the chiseling, and it's pretty close to the edging with the axe. Then we have to mark those pieces, and then we cut him out. We cut him out on a certain angle. You see they're a little bit undercut, and here they are. We undercut him so we get actually the radius together for the roundness of the fountain. And well, I marked a few more. They all need to be cut, and we go from there. So here's my wall. It's up already, and I started with the fancy pieces left and right. So everything needs to have a frame, right? So that's where we go, and it's really nice and fancy. I used those pieces we had left over and rounded it up, and some of them are chiseled, and others are not, just rough chiseled. And here's the first bottom plate. The first bottom plate is just chiseled round, and yeah, here it is again from the top. And then the second part goes down. That's those chiseled with a big broad chisel I just showed you. And inside we used a cinder block and a netting, a steel netting. It's anchored into the wall. And here's the top. And here's the wall. Pretty much done with the top, everything done. And yes, it looks great, I think. I had to cover it. Because it was winter time, and I put 2 heaters in to keep the temperature up. And I just on this little video you see, I just hit it with the chemical to actually make it watertight. And it's a certain chemical. It makes it covers it up. The moisture doesn't get in, but the moisture can come out. It's really interesting stuff, though. And I did everything besides jointing and crowding it. I saved that for later when everything is set in place. And yeah, that's how it looks like. Still a little moist, and here it is. Well, it was raining on this particular day. It took a long time for this to dry out, and I want to make sure everything is okay, so I took my time. I didn't rush anything. Here's a little piece I got from my client. He wanted me to come up with a design, and that's what I did. It is, yeah, I brought it to paper and I brought it to stone, and here it is. So now the chiseling can begin. Started on one end and kept going and going a little bit more. So every hour you see a little bit more, and yeah, this was a whole day actually. It takes a while to get it done. So here's a little video. It shows how I do it with a very fine chisel. When you start something like that, you have to be very careful not to go too deep. Just follow the lines, and always away from a stone you want to save. So as you can see, the chisel is on a certain angle, and we go in and just keep going. Yep. Don't take it too much off. Don't be too hasty. Always make sure you don't lose a corner, the edge. When it's gone, and it's never coming back. So take your time. They use a little hammer on this one. It's not even, I think it's a pound or something like that. Well, a pound and a half. And it's just right to get this whole piece going. This chisel is a carbide insert, flat on the front and showing. So that means the steel is only on the back of the carbide and not on the front, so the blade is exposed. And this chisel is definitely not for any prying or any kind of heavy duty. It's just for carving. And the blade itself, as I said, is carbide and it's exposed, so I can actually go in those little corners and edges and get everything out what I have to get out. It is I have a whole set of it. I mean, I don't know how many chisels I have, but a lot, and most of them are just laid out for that. Sure, I do have heavy duty ones for bigger jobs and for rougher jobs, but that's what you should have if you go with something like what I do here. Here's another video I made so you can see when I make a long run. That means a long run. This is an oval piece, and as you saw before, I have 4 pieces, so the whole rock is pretty much split in 4 quarters, and those 4 quarters, they should be all the same, and whatever I do right now, it will reflect on the end. So if I start cheating, cut too much away from a line, from a mark, and I have to do it on all 4 corners, and I can not only get by with one, because later on you look at this piece and look at diagonal from upper left to the lower right, and you see everything is offset or some kind of uneven. This is a lot of things you have to think about it before you start. And as you can see, this here is a little more. I take my time, just want to make sure everything is okay, and don't take too much, just a little at a time, and it will go. Now, here's the layout already, and we're taking out this piece in the middle. You see where I'm working on? Here we go. And it will be a flat with the lower ground. So it's only 2-dimensional. We have up on the lower ground, but with in the right light and everything, it will look great. Here is a section where you have to be careful, because you can lose so easily the other end, and when you do that, oh, it looks awful. So lots of people ask me why I use hammer and chisel and not airmatic and any kind of compressors, or it's not for me. I'm trained that way. I do that now for a very long time, over 45 something years, and it suits me. If I use airmatic tools, this is actually for this. No, I wouldn't do it, because I'm working with sandstone, and sandstone is sediment rock. Sediment rock comes in layers, and layers means you have soft layers, you have harder layers. If I use airmatic, I always have the same pressure in there, and you go and you hit the lower, softer layer, and pieces start flying. I don't want that. So I go and use my hammer and chisel, and I can feel it when the rock gets softer or harder. I cannot feel that with airmatic tools. Easier way would be probably to sandblast, but I don't want to sandblast, because sandblasting is just it has nothing to do with art history. It has nothing to do with nothing. It's just a piece, and it shows you what it should be. It's artificial. It's not right, in my opinion. That's just me thinking out loud. So here we are. See this little tiny chisel? That's very little one. So we get in these little edges. It is, very interesting though. Soon I will use a different chisel in order to get the inside out. So what I have here is a flathead, and the next one will be a pointer chisel. Sorry about the shaking, but I don't have a cameraman. I'm simple. So now I use a pointed chisel to get the rough stuff out, and you have to watch out when you do that, because sometimes, as I said before, you hit a lower spot or a softer spot, and all of a sudden there's a big piece missing. So always feel what's underneath and just don't take too much power on it, piece by piece, and it will go just fine. Yes. So here we go. Not bad. It's done now, and I put the frame around it. So everything has to have a frame, right? And now we sealed it, and sealed up twice, just in case. And that's a bad picture, otherwise 45 would be nice. Here is my corbel. The corbel sits on a bottom, and it will hold the bowl later on. Now we installed the centerpiece with the hole in, where the water comes out, and the corbel is in, plumb and level and everything. And it's anchored with the big 3/4 inch stainless steel, and here is a mock-up just in styrofoam. Here is our piece. Yes, that's it. That's our bowl. Hey, somebody rounded it up. Look at that. And a little more around. And a little more around. So now you see the square on top of it. This one actually, it lays there upside down. So this piece goes on a corbel, this square piece. And the inspector, of course. There's always an inspector. And here it's done. So I used a couple of templates, and actually one major and two others. And now I have to dig it up. Dig out. And I was not sure what kind of a design I put on the side between the nozzles. The water has to come out somewhere, right? So I started digging for a while. And here, that's what I came up with. So it reflects pretty much what's on a centerpiece on a fountain itself. And yep, I do a little chip, a little chiseling, and just a little bit along the line, no force, just let the chisel do the job. It will, sorry about that, it will go and, it will go and lead you right where you want it. Just don't force it. I don't know how many times the hammer hit the chisel throughout the whole project, but it was a lot. Yeah, look at it. So that's a bad camera angle, I know. But hey, I'm an amateur. So it is round. That means when you draw that from paper onto the piece itself, it looks crooked actually. But because of the roundness, when you step back, it's straight. Yeah, I know. It's hard to understand, but that's the way it is. So people always ask how long I've been doing that. And I have to say, well, too long actually. I should retire. But for some reason, you can't get away from it. I do it now for 40-something years, 45, maybe longer. I don't even wanna count how many years. So you learn a thing or two when it comes to stone, and yeah, that's what you get. And I think when I'm very old and retired, I still will have my hammer and chisel and knock out little things. But that's what it is for now. I always try to pass my skill, the skill I have, I try to pass it on, but it's hard to find somebody who wants to do it actually, and some people are very enthusiastic and they come in and yeah, I want to do that. 2 or 3 days down the road, they leave because they're just not made for it. So somebody's out there wants to know. I give lessons. Yeah. So here it is, and see when you make a straight, it doesn't look straight, but when it's done and you look at it from a couple of feet away, it works out just fine. So besides doing fountains and things like that, I also do a little bit carving on the side. If it comes to gargoyles or any kind of reliefs, yeah, I love to do stuff like that. And I'm not into aromatics, and I'm not into sandblast, and I'm not into any Dremel tools. I see people with Dremel tools doing stuff like that. Yes, they do it, and obviously it sells, but only because it's probably 25, 30 feet up in the air, and nobody sees it anyways, right? So that's not the way it should be. But hey, it's cheap, it's fast, everybody can do it. So if you make something close up, like what I do right here, just a few feet away, and you see every single little detail, especially when the water is on it, when it gets wet, and yeah, that's a total different story, and you have to be very exact to get this thing going and done. And a few here and there, I have a few jobs, I can show my skill, but they are far between. So sometimes I run into something like that, and I'm really happy so I can do it. And as I said before, I really like to pass on my knowledge, but there are not many people out there that actually want to do that. It's stonemasonry. What is it? Dirty, dusty, smelly. Not many people are actually like that. Even when I go on job sites and I do backyards, and there's lots of dust involved, there's a lots of noise involved, and the neighbors, you know how it is. The neighbors come in, too dusty, too noisy, when do you quit, when do you go home? Sure, it needs to be done, right? Yeah. So we go and finish our job and just do your thing. And that's actually it's a relief for me to be in my shop and do something like that and just get things done. So, as you can see right there, I should have used a broader chisel to get it more straightened out. But don't forget, it's round and it should stay round. It shouldn't be too straight, too flat. So you have to have the radius in there to make it fit. Well, my shop and chisels. So here's the finished product, and well, I think it looks good. Yeah, the pavers needs to be put in, and as I said, before AI shows up and the Tin Man, I did my job. So here's another thing. The metal worker, he's an artist. You have to give him that. He puts his flute in. It's very beautiful. I like that. So, okay, guys, take a look around. One's up, one's down. Everything is sealed. Everything is siliconed, and well, the tiles are in. The water is running. And goodbye.